Hey everybody, it's Michael Carey with the One Good Reason. I'm going to be flying solo tonight. A little bit of drama, everyday life type of things. For example, my daughter was bit by, I think, a spider. Had to take her to the doctor. She's okay. Ended up giving her a steroid for the inflammation to go down, but it was kind of a bit of a draining day. She's doing a lot better. Ended up, taking her to Target, got her a couple things, some coloring books and things like that. So that all worked out, and big props to my wife for looking after her. I had to basically work from home today just so I could be, near her in case anything happened. Xavier is going to actually. Oh, he's watching right now. Awesome. So yeah, he's actually not going to be partaking in this specific talk. But tonight's topic, of course, is going to be about lies. So all types of lies, whether they're white lies, whether they're really horrendous bald-faced lies, or if we're talking about some type of a bluff, right, where it's not really a more of a lie, but maybe more of just a strategy as part of a game or something like this. So it's all in good fun, and maybe even everybody playing the game is assuming that everybody is lying to some degree. So, there's different varying degrees of lies, but when we want to start out with a falsity, right, or a mistruth, in general. It typically has to be that somebody is aware. This is very important. It's somebody that is aware of the actual information, right? In my pocket, I have, let's say, $1. I know that I have $1 in my pocket. And when somebody asks me how many dollars are in my pockets, if I tell them anything other than what I know to be true, that it is the $1, I'm lying because I know the actual information and I'm presenting you with something else, right? That's not one. I say 100 or whatever it is. Now, that's basically the premise of a lie. Now, let's say I was blindfolded and somebody said, here's a bunch of cash, and then, shoved a bunch of cash into my pocket. And I'm like, oh shit, it's a lot of fucking money in my pocket. And then, somebody asked me, hey, how much cash do you got in your pocket? And I say, oh, I think I've got $50, right? And then we pull out the money, and it's all Monopoly money, or maybe it's just paper, or maybe it's only $2 or whatever it was, and I just guessed wrong. I'm not lying. I'm ignorant to what the truth was. So I was sincere in my assumption, or my guess, or my hypothesis. But I had no intent on misdirecting or preventing the truth from being communicated. So that's a big difference. So, it's not fair to call that person a liar. They didn't know. Now, yes, it's probably best to say, well, hey, actually, this person just shoved a bunch of cash in my pocket. I really don't know how much cash do I have, but I'm willing to throw a guess out there. Do these type of disclaimers before they say anything. Sure, that would be nice. But when you boil it down, that person is not lying in the sense of a deceitful ruse to, benefit themselves or to pull a fast one on you or anything like this in that example. So that's a lie. And we want to get into why people do it, right? Why do people lie? And then when you say, why do people lie, then that kind of makes you want to think about what's the situation. So, I don't know. Maybe my daughter asks me, hey, where do babies come from? Right? And maybe, she's only 2 years old. So, instead of mom and dad explaining, hot, sexy time, and then, when somebody loves somebody, this is what they want to do with that somebody, and this, this is what leads to, one thing leads to another, and then, and instead of going down that road with her in this graphic sense, people might provide a protective lie. a protective lie, or some people might call it a white lie. Not that lies have colors, right? We could go all day with, oh, this is more of a yellow lie. No, a protective lie is something where you might say, oh, honey, the stork brings the babies to mommy and daddy, and we can, we don't get to select, or maybe you add a little sugar on top, and you say, oh, and we get to pick which babies that we wanted, and we picked you, and then that's how you end the conversation, and then, until they ask, well, where did the stork get the babies from, but that's you protecting them from some kind of a sexually graphic conversation if you're thinking that that's not an appropriate age to have that talk, right? That's a protective lie. Are you a wicked person? Are you deviant, for providing these protective lies? I would say that providing a protective lie is a bit subjective because you're assuming the other person cannot handle the information. And apparently you're able to handle it, which is why you know the information and you're not willing to share it with the other person. So I think it can be a little bit arrogant and almost a bit narcissistic for you to be in a position where if I give this information to John, Smith, he's not going to be able to handle it, and I don't think it's appropriate for his little mind. So I'm going to tell him, some made up thing that makes it better. It's gonna soften it. It's gonna make it happy. It's gonna make it fun. And, we're gonna avoid the actual truth. So just be careful with that type of a thing. I know the big argument to that, the big opposition to in our defense, we only use the protective lies if, somebody is depressed, or if it's a child, right? The child thing comes up a lot. I understand. Try to avoid using protective lies unless you absolutely necessarily have to. Where do babies come from? Why is that not okay to teach that to your child at that age? I don't know. It's a taboo. What age should they be learning about? And then the argument is, well, if they learn about the sex at 2, then they're going to want to have sex at 2, right? Or something like this, or the slippery slope fallacy where they think one thing leads to another. But if you must, I probably would say the safest area is probably with the children. As far as the sex conversations, or what's that red stuff coming out of that guy's face in the movie that I'm not supposed to be watching when I walked up in the living room and you thought I was asleep. Oh, that's just ketchup. Everything's fine. Those type of protective lies, are probably going to be easiest with the children. The next set of lies are more nefarious, right? These are more villainous lies, where you're over at your friend's house, right? Or somebody that maybe not really a friend of yours. Maybe you're co-signed by one of your friends to come over to this other person's place. And that person goes in the bathroom, right? And they left their wallet out or something like this. And you're just a piece of shit. And you go up in their wallet and you take the cash, right? Maybe they have, I don't know why they have cash in their wallet, but let's say they have cash. And they come out and they say, man, where is all my money? I could have sworn I had, let's make him extra rich. I could have sworn I had $500 in cash in my wallet, right? And, you could point to your friend that co-signed you and say, it was his ass. He stole the money, right? You could do that and cause some kind of a damaging rift between those two because, I'm just adding on extra shit now. This person was just jealous of them hanging out so much that he wanted to sabotage it. I don't know. I'm making up some shit. But basically, you get the point. Lying to benefit yourself. So now that person gets to keep the money. They put the blame on somebody else. Back to why would somebody do it? That could be a number of reasons in that scenario. There's jealousy can cause you to lie. Greed can cause you to lie in this nefarious way, as I said, in this motive for sabotage. It's a motive for sabotage. Um, does everybody do that? It's at one point or another. I would say that we've probably all, and I know this is a claim, but I would say I'll just be very vague in general. I'll say, most people have probably experienced either on the receiving end of a nefarious, um, you know, lie, or they've actually been the one to serve it to somebody else. And, these are self interested um, modes of operation. It's basically what's in it for me? How do I keep myself from being exposed to either embarrassment or humiliation or harm, right? You can lie and say that, you have a gun on you. Now, would you say that that is a protective lie, or would you say that it's a nefarious lie? Well, it depends. If somebody breaks into your house, you can yell out into the darkness, I have a gun. Or you could go into a gas station with your finger under your sweater and say you have a gun, right? And it depends on this scenario. Um, so just know the contrast between a protective lie and a straight up uh, evil intended, right? I'll use the word evil. An evil intended, a nefarious attack on your gullibility. um, then you have more of a um, kind of a lie of I would say more of like a lie of passion, where it's something where look, I don't know. Let's say what's a good example? Let's say I'm drawing, right? I'm painting. I'm painting, and you know I've been working on this thing for a little while now, and people come over and they're like, "Oh, that looks kind of interesting. Is it like a starfish, or what are you doing, like a Little Mermaid thing, or what's going on with this?" And they don't really sound very convinced or enthused about what I'm painting. They can't really tell what it is. That's kind of the feeling I'm getting. And I just have to keep telling people, no, no, it's supposed to be this mountain range or something completely off. And they're like, oh yeah, 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 I totally see it. I totally see it. So then I start lying to myself because I'm so passionate about my work that I did. And I lie to myself and say that this is ahead of its time. These people aren't savvy with art. Of course they can't recognize it. What does this guy know about art? And it just you're getting the point. It's just you're lying to yourself. Um, out of a passion, out of something that you love to do, and it'd be very difficult for somebody to actually have a conversation with you and say, your mountain ranges look like starfish. The mountain should be pointing up, not laying flat. I mean, I don't, or I'm just using an example here, but it'd be hard for somebody to talk you out of something that you like to do. I mean, listen to any hip hop. Listen to any hip hop music. I mean, if you tell somebody that the music is garbage, now they have a word for it. They call you a hater, right? So now it's not cool to be a hater. I mean, that is psychology 101. It's not cool to be a hater, of music that you don't enjoy. So instead of you telling, now you can't tell these people that their music is garbage. And and now if you're in society, if you're not, you're not talking directly to Lil Wayne or like a rapper or something. I'm just using his name as a big name, for example. You're not talking to these people directly. You're talking to your buddies or whatever. But it's kind of like a taboo now if you just put somebody on blast for more than 5 minutes. All eyes on you. Now you're a hater, right? So this lie that you tell yourself of passion, right, for whatever art or whatever it is, um, it can get you in a situation where, you know, how do you, if you're lying to yourself and you're the originator of the lie, um, it puts it in a very unique situation to where you're harming are you harming yourself? I guess you could lie to yourself and say you're so passionate about, I don't know, wearing no t-shirts, right? Or no sweaters. Yeah, let's say you're passionate about just wearing tank tops. You'd love to wear tank tops, and for some reason, I don't know, you're in in Antarctica, and you know you're lying to yourself, saying that it's fine to wear tank tops in Antarctica. Yeah, you could harm yourself. I mean, you get the point. You know, just be mindful of something that you're passionate about. Are you lying to yourself? Nobody's going to be able to, you know, give you a truth about this and pull and expose the lie, because you're the one that's generated the lie. You would have to expose it within yourself. So that's kind of scary to think about. I mean, there's probably things that we're lying to ourselves about every day. I look in the mirror and think, "Oh, that's a decent looking dude," but I'm lying to myself, right? I'm ugly as fuck. So it's just one of those things you want to be mindful of. So we just, you know, just to recap here, we lightly touched on, you know, protective or white lies, right? We talked about, you know, lies of nefarious intent, and specifically to one up on somebody else and make it the, you know, the best possible outcome that they can squeeze out of whoever's in the room, really. And then we just talked about, you know, lies of passion, where you're so caught up in what you like to do that you'll tell yourself whatever you need to continue on, you know, with your failed endeavor. um, the last one that I wanted to kind of dabble into would be the bluff, right? So, you know, you're playing poker, right? You're playing poker. You know, the point of the game is nobody knows what's in your hand. You don't know what's in the other people's hands. The whole point is to have the best cards, yeah, but money's on the line, maybe, or peanuts, kids, right? If anyone's watching that's a kid, I know I curse a lot, but if something's on the line, right? You're betting. That's the whole point of the game. You're you know, quote unquote gambling. Um, at some points, you're gonna have shitty hands, crappy hands. You know, it's down to you and the only other person that didn't fold, right? They didn't call it quits. And you know your hand's crap. You know it's shit. You know it's garbage. But there's a whole pile of ones, right? There's like let's say there's like $300, $400 on the table. And basically, if you fold, you're going to lose. Everybody knows how to play poker to some degree, or most people. Um, when you bluff, you're in so many words, you're saying, please be convinced that there's information you don't have that you would need to avoid a negative outcome for yourself. I'll say it again. I need you to believe there's information you don't have that you need to avoid a negative outcome for yourself. When you make somebody feel like they need the information that you have, and if they don't get it, something bad's going to happen to them, without that even being a conversation or being discussed, it's just this moment, that can be very powerful. And what that'll have somebody do is, you know, in poker, we'll go back to poker. They're looking at you, you're looking at them. There's $400 on the table. It's that person's turn. They can either fold and call it quits right there, and you know, and just concede at that point and say, "Well, I've already lost 400. Just give him the 400." Or they can say, "His ass doesn't have shit. I'm going to put more money on the table." Right? So it's kind of like this: am I going to go further in the hole, or am I going to, you know, unplug at this point and get off at this stop? That feeling of the bluff because maybe the turn before I put even more money on the table, and it's like, damn, this dude is really going in. Man, I feel like I'd be an idiot if I continued. So if I just fold before it even gets to my turn, I'll avoid causing a negative outcome for myself. So it's very powerful. I didn't say that I have a great hand. I didn't say anything to this person. Now, what led to the feeling of the bluff? Well, in the poker game, it would be the chips. What's another example other than poker? Well, I mean, look at, I hate to, bring up hip hop again, but let's say you look at a music video. Of course, a lot of the rappers are in the videos with, fancy cars and things. I mean, we all know these things by now, obviously. But in, things like in the 90s, or, late 90s and things like this, people didn't know these things. The cars are rented, right? The chains, the gold chains are rented. But they're not saying, this is my chain, this is real gold, this is my car. This specific car right here is my car. I have the pink slip. No, they're not saying that. It's just the rapper is just sitting in the car wearing the chains. When the video cuts, they take it off. They have to give it back to the bank or give it back to whoever let them borrow the chains or whatever. But by you seeing it, you see the car, you see the money that they threw in the air, you see the chains. It's a bluff, and it puts you in a situation where you say, this person has information that I may need to know, right? What's that information that you need to know? Well, this person actually does have a lot of money. This person is actually doing the things that they're saying in their raps. And, I need to be in the know of this to be, considered a good hip hopper, right? And so I can know more about these various artists, and I can write off the fake ones and sign and co-sign the real ones, or however you want to go. It's just the illusion that something is there that really isn't there, and it's kind of unspoken. So you definitely want to. Oh, Joan the scammer. I'm gonna pin that, Xavier. I didn't even realize. Yeah, I totally have that pinned. Now, I should probably jump into social suggestion. But just really quick, I wanted to run through some ways that you can pinpoint if somebody's lying. There are a few things. When somebody says something that's a lie, they'll grab their nose or something like this. Now, I did grab my nose a little bit earlier, but that's because it's No Shave November, bitches, and I'm trying to grow my scraggly ass beard, and it's probably not gonna fucking grow any better than a neck beard. But yeah, my stash tickled my nose right at that time. But yeah, when somebody's lying, they'll grab their nose, they'll rub the back of their neck right at that moment when they're saying something. There's micro expressions. They'll do a little thing like that. These are hard things to pick up on. Obviously, you're in your phone, you're looking around, you're talking. Somebody will back up while they're saying something. That means they don't have any confidence in the thing that they just said. They'll immediately maybe put their hands in their pockets. They'll cross their arms while they're lying. Somebody's sitting on a bench or holding a basketball to their left, right? You start talking to them, asking them, hey, what the fuck happened at the party yesterday? Did you take my fucking pack of smokes? What the fuck? And they move the basketball onto their lap. It's a division between themselves and you before they speak. It's a subtle psychological nuance that will reflect if somebody's lying, or if at least they're trying to formulate a lie. These physical things. It's great. When somebody's telling the truth, they'll naturally have this happen with their foreheads. It's just one of those things. It's like, no, I'm telling you, I didn't go to the it'll happen. It just happens. There's something called a bang statement. somebody will here's an example of a bang statement. Somebody will nod their head for a negative or shake their head for a positive. So, hey, did you like my food? Do you like my cooking? I love your food. I always love, it's hard to, but the bang statement, I'm shaking my head. You're my favorite person to hang out with. You know that, you know. Um, I never went, never went over to George's house. You see, I never went to George's. People will do these bang statements. Those are pretty much the easiest ones to look out for. There's also, clasping of the hands. Some people will rub their hands while they're lying. Um, I know there's a whole breakdown about, where your eyes are at and, when someone's trying to remember something in the story. I mean, you guys can look that up. But I'm just talking about physical, gestures and things of that nature and, with the face. But as far as the social suggestion with the lies, have a conversation with somebody with all the information that you just learned, and yeah, see if they do any protective lies. See if they do any nefarious lies. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us can, pick up on those pretty easily. See if they have any lies of passion. Do you know anybody that has a lie of passion? And it's going to be hard to, or maybe almost impossible to break through that wall. um, that person would kind of have to drink the water, you know what I mean, versus you leading them to it. Um, and then, look for any of these signs of lying. And just, at the end of the day, why do people do it? It's either to protect somebody that they think is too weak to handle the information, or to protect themselves. Really, it's an instinctual survival mechanism. I don't think lying should be abolished. I think trying to abolish the lie is similar to trying to, abolish breathing. It's something that is innate within humanity. And as long as we can be insightful, you might quickly tell a lie and say, "Ah, I'm sorry, I just lied. I didn't mean to." As long as we're insightful and we can correct ourselves, I think that's the best, most decent thing that we can do. Um, but yeah, if you guys have any examples of just bald faced lies where people will just tell you, "I am a Samoan 95-year-old woman who lives on Mars right now," you know, and if you have any examples like that, feel free to share. I'd be happy to hear any of those type of stories. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. Feel free to catch us on the next Tiger Talk. It'll be Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch us on www.facebook.com/the one good reason. One is just the number one. And also, I'll be uploading this live talk onto YouTube for anyone else to check out. Alrighty, enjoy your weekends, and thanks for watching. Take care.